The emergency shutdown had been pressed, and it should have been over. No one in the room expected the resulting thud that sent the dust falling from the ceiling tiles. No one expected that the power would skyrocket beyond their normal operational output. The date, April 6, 1986. The time, 1:23:58 a.m. And unbeknownst to the men in the control room, reactor number 4 of the Vladimir Ilyich Lenin nuclear power plant had exploded. Through ignorance and arrogance, they had caused the world's worst man-made disaster. Welcome, internet passers-by, to the story of Chernobyl. I'm your host, Rebel Notorious, and joining me today is Shaun.
Hiya.
And Melina.
I am not in the cave. What's up, potties?
We still got it in!
Yeah!
Oh,
Fuck
I
yeah.
knew you'd fuck up that intro.
I'm so glad you remembered potties.
It's now my thing that just annoys a certain someone.
Yeah.
Fucking scratches my soul.
Right in the potties.
Oh, don't say that. That sounds fucking wrong.
Right in the potties.
Oh,
I'm not going to
God.
You know
overindulge
who
on
you
the
are,
cave.
you podster.
So this is an episode we've talked about doing for a bit. I guess like probably a couple episodes because
Yeah.
this might
Yeah.
take up
An episode.
the full episode. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
100% sure.
I mean, it's always good when like that happens because
Yeah.
we know we're going in depth.
Yeah, but saying that, I do have a note here where I'm not going to be like going super in depth because
I mean, there is
It's
such
a
thing as too much.
very
in
wide subject. There's a lot
Yeah.
happening, so since it won't be an exhaustive, detailing of the history and the events and all the sort of shit that happened in the Soviet
Yeah.
Union before and after.
there. There are other podcasts that
Yes.
go into so much more detail.
If you find interesting what we're talking about today, when you're done with this episode, you can go and check out the book Midnight in Chernobyl by Adam Higginbotham. It's a full chronicling of the history. It goes as far back as the founding of Pripyat and even stretches, into the liquidation process, the recovery, the building of the
Wow.
Nice.
safe containment and all that sort of stuff. I think that's what happens at the end of the book. It's been a while since I've read it. There's also Chernobyl Prayer or Voices from Chernobyl. If you're in the UK, it's both of those. It's Chernobyl Prayer, Voices from Chernobyl. If you're in America, I think it's just Chernobyl Prayer. Depending on where you are, it's one of those titles.
Yeah.
It's by Svetlana Alexievich. It's a gathering of accounts from people who experienced the disaster. There's also the Disaster Area podcast hosted by Jennifer Matadrees. That covers the events. Those are episodes 123 to 128. And of course, the HBO miniseries Chernobyl, along
yes.
with its companion podcast, one of the best dramas ever made.
Which you have recommended to me so many
Yes.
times
Yes.
over the years.
I mean, the show is incredible.
Yes,
Oh,
it
Really.
is.
I think have you seen
I've not seen
He's
it.
not seen it.
Well,
I've been meaning
watch
to
it.
for years.
It's really, really good.
Mhm.
Recommend.
Very highly recommend.
I'll probably do it like
In
within
2-3
like the
years.
weeks.
The companion podcast is hosted by the creator of the show, Craig Mazin, or co-host, I should say, by Craig Mazin, and he goes over some things that are different from history, what they changed, why, and all that sort of stuff. And again, he mentions that a lot of what went into making the show came from Chernobyl Prayer, first-hand accounts, trying to get that actual authenticity, so to speak, on record.
I don't think I ever heard of Chernobyl prayers until right now. So
I
that's
hadn't
interesting.
heard of it until I listened to that podcast, and then I had trouble finding it.
Okay.
Because I think because of the UK title being
Very awkward.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I think he calls it Voices from Chernobyl, which must be the American title, and then I couldn't
could
find
be.
it under Chernobyl, that sort of thing. Anyway,
Yeah.
don't want to spend too long on this part. So this is I have a lot of notes here, and I'm gonna have to try and explain some science that I've done my best to put in layman's terms and explain in a comprehensible manner.
Because I am a layman. I can't speak
All
for
of
you.
us are. I did not take science in high school.
I mean, you've got
I
certified
am a
dumb bitch.
nuclear.
I took human biology and failed.
Same. I took
I-
science and physics and failed both.
I did not really do good in science overall.
Exactly. Okay, so we're not scientists. I
No.
think that's common for creative
If we're
people.
wrong, call us the fuck out.
Yeah.
But I do find nuclear disasters very intriguing and fascinating, and I think it's all to do with that fact that especially Chernobyl is entirely a man-made disaster,
Yeah.
and it had the potential to totally fucking wipe us out.
Oh yeah.
And I don't bring up Fukushima and stuff like that in here just because I'm trying to keep it concise. But again, I think Fukushima, while I'm interested in learning about it, and it's just all about finding materials and all of that's about time. I think partially it's lower on my list of like reading into because it's partially due to a natural disaster, so to speak. Like they
An
were
earthquake,
told
wasn't it?
stuff. Yeah, it was a earthquake and a
Tsunami.
And a tsunami, yeah.
both things caused different issues that tied together, and you have Fukushima. But they were told fix certain things, and they didn't. Anyway,
We're not going into that one.
man-made stuff is like we didn't know what we were doing with nuclear power at the time. We
really didn't.
we
Just
even
thought it was
now,
neat.
Yeah.
yeah,
Look, we've got a thing. It can make really fucking big bombs.
yeah,
And we
Pretty
can get power out of it.
and so that being like that's a disaster waiting to happen, especially with something as volatile as nuclear energy. So, and that's basically Chernobyl is that story. So
To put it in like very layman terms, again, like the best way I've heard like nuclear stuff described is like it's the closest we have to actual dangerous magic, basically.
pretty much, yeah.
Rocks that give off bad vibes.
So obviously the first question is what caused the disaster to occur in the first place. Everyone knows it exploded, but the question is how did it explode? And I'm glad you've seen Chernobyl because you may have at least some understanding of what I explained because the show in the last episode very well explains what happens in a very fantastic monologue from Jared Harris that takes up a good chunk of that episode. It's entirely just him talking.
And very visual. He has a whole board behind him. Really explains it. Yeah.
So very impressive to carry a scene like that on your own with no one to bounce off of.
I should have watched it.
Yeah. I told you to prep.
I should have rewatched that in preparation for this, but instead I sat up till like 2 a.m. on the internet trying to find like concise and easy to understand explanations. So, a number of factors allowed the events of April 6th to unfold. One was a major design flaw within the reactor that the Soviet Union had covered up, and user error was the other one. The crew that night pushed the reactor beyond any reasonable limit, and we'll get to that. I'm going to explain the science first, even though in the chain of events, that's sort of the last thing that gets explained. But it's better to understand that first, and
so
then
you can
explain
have a better understanding and grasp of everything else. Going
just because I think if I don't say that and people start listening, they're gonna hear the second part and go, "Why didn't you say this first?" It's just so that everyone's on the same page.
Exactly.
So obviously, first the design flaw.
Science lesson with Dr. Revel Notorious.
Dr. Notorious.
Dr. Notorious.
That's my father.
Yeah.
Call me Rebel.
Call me a rebel. Junior.
Oh, this is starting off as very
Oh my god.
Disasters out, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh fuck.
death.
We are not the podcast to be handling this. Oh my god.
Science.
So many of the scientists, at least in the Soviet Union, which doesn't necessarily go for much back in that time, they thought it was impossible for an RBMK type reactor to explode. So that was the I'm going to explain it, and I have it in my notes here to explain it, so it's fine.
Okay.
The reactor Bolshoi Moshnotsky Kanalny, or high-powered channel type reactor, is a graphite moderated reactor. Don't worry, we'll come back to that.
Okay, cool.
Now, not to get too scientific, this means that as the nuclear fission occurs when the reaction, I'm not fucking explaining nuclear fission, just know that it happens.
Yeah.
Shit gets hot.
Yeah. Very thermal.
And when you have water running through it, that generates steam. That turns a turbine, which generates electricity to put in a generator. Well, it's generated in the generator.
Steam makes energy.
Yes.
That's the power of thermodynamics.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
And so to control the reaction, or at least the rate of the reaction and therefore the power output, you have control rods that can be lowered into the fuel rods channel, because they're all sort of like in little... If you see like a a reactor from the top. It's
Yeah.
like that big panel of like circular, and it's like all little squares. Those are all fuel rod channels with control rods on top. So they're all different, and you can put them in, and it slows down the reaction. It's hard to explain, but still.
No, I can visualize it.
Yeah.
Possibly because of Fallout, but I can visualize it.
There you go. So while the rods are made of materials that slow down the reaction, they're tipped with graphite, which tipped is a bit of a misnomer. They're kind of like half made from graphite. The rest is materials to slow the reaction.
A lot of scientific stuff is misnomers.
To really boil it down to the base way of explaining this is that it helps with the efficiency of lowering the reaction, because the water is saturated with neutrons, graphite absorbs neutrons, Yes, anyway. But that means that when because the water is there to cool the reactor, but also there to facilitate the generation of power, when the graphite enters into the fuel channel, it displaces the water, which momentarily increases power output.
Okay.
Which in normal circumstances, fine. It's very nominal. But on the night of the disaster, with all the control rods withdrawn, when the emergency shutdown was pressed and they all began to descend into the core at the one time, which already had more steam than normal.
Oh no.
The water was displaced, causing a rapid increase in temperature, which resulted in the water flashing to steam, which ruptured the fuel rod channels, meaning the control rods couldn't lower any further. That meant that the power then surged well beyond the safety limits, and the reactor went fucking boom.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So that's the science part.
Okay.
Now the human part, and this is the longest part. So.
Okay.
Of all the things that caused the disaster in April 1986, it was a safety test. Which is very fucking ironic.
That is ironic as fuck.
It was originally meant to be conducted before the reactor even began full operation. They had tried it in 1984, 1985, and then now they were trying it. I think actually this is their third time, so they might have tried it as far back as 82. I can't remember when Reactor 4 was opened officially. But yeah. They've tried it a couple of times. Every time it's failed. Every time it's been something different. And the night it happened, I've lost my place in my notes.
Stop for time.
So it was skipped over originally to... I believe this is the case. I could be wrong in this part, so apologies if I am. Originally, they skipped over it in order to open the plant ahead of schedule, so that meant that everyone looked better. Classic Soviets.
That sounds about right, yeah.
So the test was to simulate a blackout and a simultaneous coolant leak. So loss of power, loss of water flowing into the core, meaning, the steam turbine was there. So obviously the steam turbine that's turned by the generation of the steam was then meant to transfer power instead of into the generator into emergency water pumps that would put water back into the core, therefore cooling it.
Yeah.
To prevent, obviously, the core from overheating, melting down, blah, blah, blah.
Doing a big fucky.
Yes, so this was, to simulate that safe thing happened, because this was during the Cold War, and that was a very real possibility.
Yeah.
So the test was supposed to occur during the day shift, who had familiarized themselves with the procedure that they were being asked to carry out.
I sense an unfortunately.
Yep. But by the time the day shift of April 25th had began, the reactor had already been brought down to 50% of the regular output. The regular output of Reactor 4 was 3,200 megawatts.
Okay.
Half of that's 1,600 roughly.
Yeah.
They were carrying out, unrelated maintenance tasks because the test wasn't to be conducted until 2:15 in the afternoon. At 2 p.m., the Kiev electrical grid requests that the further reduction of the reactor's power prep for the test be postponed so that they could continue to meet the peak evening time demand for electricity.
Oh no.
So this resulted in the test being postponed. At 11:04 p.m. that night, the Kiev grid gave the go-ahead for the reactor shutdown to continue. So it's been running at half power for almost an entire day at this point, which is not good for the reactor. It's been building up a lot of stuff that normally gets burned off during the process of the reaction.
Yeah, that shit builds up.
Yeah, a lot of gases that turn into more stable forms. Again, too scientific, not going to get into it, but know that the reactor in this state is considered poisoned. They should have done a full shutdown and then left it at least a day
Yeah.
and started it back up.
to refresh.
Yes.
To put it in a term.
So at this point, not only had the day shift long gone, but the evening shift had less than an hour left before they would switch out with the night shift. With the test supposed to have been completed during the day shift, the night crew were originally only supposed to be dealing with the last bits of cooldown on the otherwise shut down reactor because they were planning, after the test was conducted, to fully shut down the reactor for maintenance. So
Makes sense.
they should have had nothing
To do with it.
to do with that at all. Unprepared and with an inexperienced staff, some of whom had only been in their role for around 3 months, they began the process of lowering the reactor's output to the correct level. However, due to the delay and operating for most of the day in a lower than intended power level, the reactor was already in a precarious state. This means that they tried to gradually lower the power, but it began to drop significantly more than intended. The power dropped to 30 megawatts, a mere 5% of the level required for the test, and like fucking 1%
Yeah.
of its actual output normally. The person in charge of that test, Anatoly Dyatlov, who was a massive asshole, insisted that the power
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I mean,
He insisted that the power be raised back up in order to complete the test that night. At the point that it dropped to that low, they should have shut it down and not continued.
absolutely. Yeah.
At this point, the reactor was poisoned, which I mentioned earlier. It was beyond rescue unless entirely shut down for at least a period of 24 hours. After going back and forth trying to raise the reactor's output, almost all 211 manual rods had been manually removed from the reactor. It's believed around 6 of them remained, which is half of the required 15 minimum. Meaning they had basically no control over that reactor at that point.
No, they wouldn't have.
So at 1:23:04 they began the test, and were wrapping up at 1:23:40, so about 37 seconds later or something. They pressed the emergency shutdown. No one's really sure why, because most people believe that it was happened before any spike in energy happened. It was before like they were aware of any issues going on. But for some reason, somebody pressed it, and at 1:23:58 the first explosion, followed quickly by at least one more, shot the lid of the reactor up into the night sky, spewing radioactive materials into the air and changing the region for the rest of the time.
Yeah, which is where we have it today.
Which we have it today, yes. They completed the new safe containment, which had been built at the end of 86. The original one, sorry, had been built at the end of 86. They built a new one and put it over, I think, during lockdown.
Oh yeah, that would make sense.
Or 2017 or lockdown, I can't remember.
Roundabout recent-ish times.
Yeah, that's meant to, stand for a while, and cleanup's meant to be done by 2065, but that's just cleanup of the reactor and
Yeah.
like, decommissioning of the site. That's not...
The whole area is going to be
The whole
irradiated
area,
for
yeah.
centuries.
Yep. So, a lot of people were affected by this. Officially on record, there's only 30 deaths.
But, Soviets.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's a hard one to get actual, documented.
Yeah.
Even if it weren't the Soviets, it would be hard to document because
Okay.
there's going to be an uptick in cancer, there's prolonged effects.
Stuff you can't really, record in a short time.
No,
basically.
so, the 30 deaths are, direct, quote-unquote.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
does. It can't take an effect like any illnesses you've got.
Yeah,
because
so,
of that.
yeah.
Or other
It's
factors.
one thing that from the end of Chernobyl where they do, flash up cards of,
like a documentary.
yeah, what's his name? Valery Lasov. It talks about how, he committed suicide 2 years to the date of the and all that sort of stuff. And then it says, officially there's only been 30 recorded deaths, but, many sources believe up to 6,000 people. And it's it's the one thing I'll take issue with from Chernobyl of I think they're maybe grossly exaggerating.
Yeah, that feels like
number.
an embellishment.
Yeah. Sure, 30 seems a little low, but in terms of direct effects from it, I think it's probably reasonable because, weirdly enough, only the Soviets could have pulled off cleaning something like that up.
Yeah, because they had the methods.
They had a sense of unity
Yeah,
about them.
that was the whole culture.
Yeah.
For better or for worse.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, for sure. There's something else I was going to mention. Oh, yeah. One person, their body was never found. A person named... Hodemchuk, I can't remember his first name.
We're pronouncing names
Yeah.
that we can't really pronounce well.
Fuck. Share.
You've just so close yet so
We lost
far.
Cher that day.
2 people were killed in the initial explosion. They managed to
Yeah.
recover one of the bodies, but it was a man named...
You couldn't put in
Doesn't
like
say.
missing person.
It's weird because like normally it mentions it like right away because there's like a memorial statue to him outside of the
Oh,
plant.
looks good.
That's nice, yeah.
Wow, thank you Wikipedia for being absolutely...
It knew we were recording today and was like,
Oh,
nope.
there you go.
Not him, not him, not him, not him. Valery Hodemchuk. He is believed stationed in the south main circulating pump's engine room, likely killed immediately, body never found, likely buried under the wreckage of the steam separator drums. So yeah, he's the only body never recovered.
Has a memorial sign in the reactor 4 room.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's nice, yeah.
So yeah, that's Chernobyl. Like I said, not in depth. I highly recommend the miniseries, like a starting place. You know, it's a dramatization.
We know what you meant. Dramatization.
Yeah.
So don't take it as like gospel 100%. Listen to the podcast. if
This
you-
little section right here is just an appetizer.
Yeah, so if you like that show, listen to the companion podcast. They'll clear up some of the stuff, but then also go and do further research because
Of course. Yeah, always.
a very interesting subject, especially with like some of the stuff that surrounds just the fact that they built Pripyat entirely for the Chernobyl, reactor, the power station, and all the sort of like how the Soviets went all fucking in on nuclear energy just to try and outpace the United
US,
States
yeah,
and
and
stuff
the
like
West.
that, and all the shenanigans that went on politically for that. It's a very interesting subject, very complicated though.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's such a microcosm for the Cold War.
Yeah,
And it's just interesting.
yeah,
Because I think like the cleanup process and like the aftermath of it, especially in the series, I thought like it really puts it into perspective how we look at disaster and never really think about then
Yeah,
what?
'cause, like-
it's happened, safety crews, everyone's out. What then?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's only really the first episode and the last episode that are directly about the incident or the accident or whatever. Everything else in the show is about cleaning up, about figuring out how bad it is, and everyone coming together to do their part and stuff like that to like actually clean it up, and how that affects different people and stuff like that. Because you have one scene where they're trying to get a babushka to leave. She's like milking a cow, and they've lived there, and there's her whole life, but not
Yeah,
even
their
that. It's
homes.
like she was old enough to remember when the Nazis would have come through the area.
Yikes.
So she didn't really want to leave and all that sort of stuff. So it's very interesting, very well put together.
Christ.
Absolutely, yeah.
Who wants to go next? Because
God,
I don't
wow.
have
follow
We
that
all
up.
seem very sad and depressed.
I mean, I'm happy to go, but it's such small. Like, I don't want to say it's such smaller scale.
I mean, how is anyone going to top Chernobyl? I mean, my
Yeah.
one's sort of a historical event as well, but I don't think it's even as grim.
you guys wanted me to go first, so there you go. You sealed
That's
your own
true.
fucking grave.
That's fair
True.
enough.
So, today for my presentation, I'm going to be talking about the North Sea flood of 1953, which we in the Netherlands know as the Watersnoodramp, which is
That was a funny word.
it's the water emergency disaster.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
Makes sense. So, set the scene, it's 1953. We all know what's been happening.
Insert Dutch national anthem here in like 50s quality.
Sure.
I think
Get
they're
on that.
reeling from the whole Nazi thing.
Okay, don't then.
Yeah, look, our national anthem is very much old as fuck, and we're like, oh yeah, I love the Spanish king that was here, and we're basically German in our blood, aren't we?
Did you kick the king out?
Yeah.
Okay.
He just-
Maybe.
Yeah. So basically in 1953, there was a big storm happening, and a combination of an high spring tide, which is spring tide's higher, and the severe European windstorm caused a storm tide in the North Sea. And this then caused the sea to flood the land up to 5.6 meters above sea level.
Jesus. Oh wait,
So-
hold on. Above sea level. Okay.
Above sea level.
Yeah.
How high above sea level is the Netherlands normally?
No.
No.
No, they're
Basically, it's mostly will be under.
Okay.
Everything that's close to the coast will be under.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah. For those that don't know meters, it's 18 foot 4 inches.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. So because, it was the North Sea, other countries were also affected, like Belgium, England, and even Scotland, which I didn't know.
I didn't know.
No, I didn't.
No.
Which
Happened
we
until
didn't
right
even know happened until now.
Well, I don't want to say Scotland's the country with the least casualties involved, so that'll probably be why.
To be fair, when you go up north, it gets very mountainy.
Yeah, like we're
Yeah.
a country that just has hills and mountains.
Yeah,
It's
we got
something.
natural
Exactly.
protection for it.
Must be nice.
That old joke.
We
England
did
is
not.
England is sinking and we are rising.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
Slow.
total amount of casualties that was recorded is 2,190.
Jesus.
Christ.
1,836 of which were in the Netherlands.
Oh, okay.
Then 307 in England,
Damn.
28 in Belgium,
Damn.
and a whole 19 in Scotland. Which
The
still
crowd
very
never
bad.
covered that.
No. Where
And
was Lizzie then?
come on, fucking Lizzie. Should have spoken up. And because a lot of the land that was flooded was also farmland, over 187,000 farm animals drowned.
Wow.
So that fucked us
Jesus.
up very much so.
Yikes.
And I found a nice timeline to go over the events of how it actually happened.
Oh, okay.
So from midday on the 31st of January 1953, water was driven from the northern reaches of the North Sea between Norway and Scotland by a strong northwest gale. A surge developed along the coast of the Netherlands, which coincided with the high spring tide, leading to many water levels on the Dutch coast on the morning of 1st of February 1953 being higher than any previous recorded figures, particularly in the southwestern regions of the country,
Okay.
because it's worse down there for some reason. At 10:30 p.m. on Saturday evening, 31st of January, it was low tide, but this time the water remained high. The strength of the hurricane had broken the tidal movement. On the night of the 1st of February, around 3 a.m., many dikes in the province of Sealand, which is...
I'm not laughing at.
No, it's fine. People died.
Continue.
This is a real event that happened.
I know, and I know
Stop
what
laughing
dikes
at the
are.
word.
I know what dikes are because we have them in Scotland. So
Yeah, so... many people... Because
It's not what you think.
the first many people who survived the first bit of flooding eventually did pass away because the houses in which they sheltered, especially on the rooftops, collapsed due to the persistent water pressure. And there's but there's footage out there of taken from helicopters where you can see full houses flooded and people like sitting on the roofs waving.
that's impressive for
help.
1953.
Yeah, I mean it's not much, but
But
There's
still,
some-
getting
Yeah,
a
yeah,
camera
exactly.
on a helicopter back
yeah,
then.
I know. It's crazy. I have to find where I was. Fuck.
Now you know how I feel.
Yeah. And so at that time, the government did not know yet that the regions that were flooded were almost completely underwater, and no large-scale rescue operations had yet taken place.
Okay.
Because there was less, we don't have phones to talk like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm drowning. I am actively drowning.
Yeah, someone doesn't pick up your phone call. It's not that,
Yeah.
bad back then.
Yeah, 'cause, who was near a fucking phone? at the time?
Exactly.
It was only on the Monday, the 2nd of February, so 2 days after,
Oh, okay.
that fishermen were the first to sail deep into the disaster area to save hundreds of people.
Always a fisherman.
Yeah, I know, right? Rescue operations from the air were hardly possible. The Netherlands only had one helicopter and to wait for other countries
Christ.
to offer help.
That sounds about right.
Because people were legit. The only people that survived were people on their rooftops. So you had to hope you had a high house
Yeah.
on a tiny bit of a higher bit, and otherwise they're screwed.
18 foot up.
Yeah,
Christ.
exactly. And if your house was shit, that was going to collapse.
Yeah.
It would have
Yeah.
collapsed before you got saved. And on the Tuesday then, February 3rd, a large flow of people and relief supplies started coming in. Planes dropped sandbags, boots, food, and water over the disaster area. I hope it's very targeted throwing and not just chucking it, but okay. At the same time, thousands of Dutch soldiers, administrators, aid workers, and volunteers arrived to carry out coordinated actions in the disaster area. Tens of thousands of residents were being evacuated from the area to shelters elsewhere in the country. The disaster is still commemorated in the areas affected on February 1st. I did not know this.
Oh, cool. Now you do.
Seems
Now I
like
do.
an odd. I mean, not to downplay it, but like it seems like an odd thing to like commemorate. In that sense.
Yeah, it's to commemorate, like, because this disaster is the main inspiration for the Delta Works, which is a system.
Oh, it's what I'm thinking of, isn't
the
it?
big concrete things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those were authorized as a solution to, if we ever have other possible storms, and they have also been declared as one of the 7 wonders of the modern world by the American Society of Civil Engineers.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm glad you said modern. I would have been like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they're pretty, are they?
You're thinking a bit highly of yourself.
I'm also
there, aren't you?
slightly questioning even the modern world part.
Yeah. No, it's like, because the province has a very weird shape where it mostly happened, where it's mostly like not disconnected islands, but long strips of land.
Yeah.
So water very easily just comes over it because they just don't have a lot of surface area.
Yeah.
So it was between those islands, they have now put these Delta Works
Okay.
to stop water when it's
Why are they
too
called
high
Delta
tide.
Works? Because of the shape?
I know, maybe. I don't.
They just thought it sounded neat.
Yeah, but this is basically a disaster we learn a lot about in school. Like every year, if for history, you'll talk about it, which understandable. But boy, is it
Wow,
shoved
such a
down your
rich
throat.
history.
Yeah.
Because we have like movies made about it as well, and we watch. I know, and like it's
I don't
very
mean to laugh,
fascinating
sorry.
to
I
like
do.
look at like timelines of it. How you have like a storm coming in, and the first thing we do is like you get bags of sand put on top of the dikes to stop any water from coming in. But you have a high spring tide storm coming in. It's nothing you can do.
Man, the Japanese made Godzilla as like a response to Hiroshima and stuff like that, and you built the Delta Works.
Yeah. And after that, we also made a whole nother province, just
Why not?
chucking sand in the sea, and we're like, that's a new one.
But you made like reclaimed land basically.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
No, it's fun. It's if you look at old maps,
Did you
you're just
say that like
there's
you
mi-
participated?
It
I
was
there.
such a joy. Just chucking the sand.
I think where else has that?
China.
China. I think
Dubai has
Japan,
it.
New York.
Yeah.
I think New York has some of it as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because Ellis or Liberty Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a whole thing about the subways.
Yeah.
They accidentally made a new island.
Yeah, who knew? I know China's been doing that in like the South China Sea because that's sort of disputed like
Yeah.
an area and stuff, and so they've been like throwing their own
Yeah.
land to get more claims on it.
Oh
Jesus.
my god.
So that new province was established in 1986. I thought it was way earlier. And I'll show you a map, and the red bit, that's the new bit.
Wow,
That's a lot.
that's
Yeah.
impressive.
It's quite a lot.
That's
How
a
many-
flag.
Look, we have so many flags.
You've got one with hearts on it.
Yeah,
It's
that's mine,
adorable.
yeah. And the current population.
You've never seen the heart flag?
No.
That's my province.
It's very cute.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's
no, I haven't heard of this.
So,
Fresland?
yes. So,
I know.
to go
Dutch
on
things.
my Dutch rant, I'm from one of the northern provinces, which is called Friesland, spelled
I knew you fucking pronounced that
Friesland,
right.
Oh, sorry.
and the flag has little hearts on it.
It's adorable.
It's adorable, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not
Are they
hearts.
hearts? They look like lily pads.
They are officially
They
lily
did.
pads.
Okay.
Yeah.
They did look like lily pads, but you know, it's hearts is cuter.
Yeah, I know. Many people see it's a cute heart. I'm like, oh, there goes the significance. But sure, if that
Wait,
makes you,
what's the significance?
Yeah,
then?
yeah.
it's just lily pads. We have a lot of ponds.
Okay.
It's not that significant.
That's not that significant. Then.
There's no, but the
You sounded
number
so
is-
distraught
Yeah.
over people calling them hearts. I'm gonna be honest, hearts sounds better.
Look, I know, and there's so much. There's significance with. There's 7 of them. I don't remember what they stand for.
Very proud
I'm
of your
so
province.
proud. We have so many good foods though in Friesland. So if you're ever in the Netherlands and you're bored as hell and you're willing to make the fucking journey up there, because apparently Americans like doing that now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they're going to Holland.
Mm.
You look like you're gonna kill me.
I think we gotta move on now.
Oh,
That's the nerve there.
that was one of the first things she told us after we met.
I knew what the difference between Holland and the Netherlands was.
No, but like the fact that she hates.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, I understand if you've never been told or never bothered to look into it, you'd say it. It's fine. But if I tell you and then you continue to be like, oh, you're going to Holland? I was like, I mean, I'll land there, but then I'm leaving. So.
Best way to describe it.
Yeah, exactly.
It was funny until I met you. I don't think I knew that they were the same place. I thought Holland and the Netherlands were like separate things. I don't know how. Like, I genuinely don't know
like,
how.
I thought they were different countries.
Just maybe a disassociation, or like it's somewhere, like with Luxembourg, somewhere there.
Like I don't know where half the shit in Europe is. So,
I mean, I'm not that bad.
like, unless it's Germany and France, Spain.
You can find Italy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Italy, but that's the boot. Yeah, like once you've kind of gone past the big ones, like I have no fucking idea.
When you get past like Western and or like Central Europe.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to like Poland and
Central / Eastern Europe gets a bit fuzzy for me.
Wow.
I mean,
great.
I wouldn't say I'm terrible, but I struggle a little.
Yeah, I'm not particularly great at geography. I wouldn't say.
I know the general area where the Balkans are.
I can circle when
I
I
can
think.
circle.
I think I know.
Yeah.
I think I know.
There's always shit going on over there.
Jesus. Well, that concludes my Dutch flood.
So Holland is like a province.
Two. There's north and south, isn't
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so it's like
As of now.
two,
As of now.
two provinces within.
Soon there will be
So
none.
how does the whole like confusion of it being like the country come to it?
I've heard like, tell me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah,
I hear
I'm
like,
Call
like-
me the fuck out.
I'm,
Don't trust
I'm
me.
sitting here like, and you start talking.
yeah, I know this because it was in this like deep dive like rabbit hole I went down when I was learning like geography and just European history in general because I was bored during a summer.
I've literally just done a whole thing about Chernobyl, man.
Yeah, but like they're the most popular populous provinces. So like most people are there, and like most of what we would associate as like Dutch things, like you can find there.
Right.
Is what I usually hear. I'm not sure if there's any more to it than that.
There's historical context as well, because we used to, have a very large shipping business, and that would come mostly from those
you
two
guys
provinces.
were one of the first people to discover Japan. When
Of course you'd know that.
yeah, it's in that video. The history of the entire world.
yeah.
Or was
Yeah.
it history of Japan?
History of
Whatever.
Japan, yeah.
The Bill Wirtz one.
Yeah, but we, had a lot of ships coming in and out, and I want to say most of them would go through Holland.
Yeah.
Because our hubs were like, we have Rotterdam, which has a ginormous harbor, and of course Amsterdam being our capital
Weed
as well.
City.
We're working on it.
No, don't work on it.
I guess it's sort of similar to the fact that like because Glasgow is like the most popular city in Scotland because of
no
its, like,
one has
ship all
confused
the-
Glasgow for Scotland though.
Go to ask Americans.
Oh yeah, true.
Like, dude.
But Americans are American. Like I hear people in the UK make the mistake of Holland and the Netherlands. So
If it's an honest mistake, I don't really care. Yeah, it's one of the things. If someone doesn't know, like, I don't know how to compare it. Is like calling
England is my
Scottish.
city.
No, but
England
like
is my city.
people not knowing that like Great Britain isn't a country.
Oh, don't.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
a whole thing.
Yeah,
Or the whole
exactly.
country is just England.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel physical pain.
I know.
I hate when people do that.
Yeah.
I'm fighting
so
the urge
much.
to throw up.
Mainly when they're like British culture, I'm like, bruh, that doesn't exist.
Doesn't mean anything.
No, except for language-ish, and then even then it's
Even then.
Even then, that's going back though. Like,
Yeah.
As well.
And like, there is no kind of British language because like Scotland has its own slang terms. So
Yeah,
does
yeah.
England. So does Ireland. Wales, I assume.
And
does.
they're all like
I don't
sort
know
of
what they're doing over in Wales.
the remnants from like the other like indigenous languages
Yeah.
we did have.
The
before
three
it all got-
languages in a trench coat.
Yeah.
Mm.
Before it got taken over by English,
English.
and now we all speak that.
Yeah.
yeah.
My Duolingo's going off telling me to learn Gaelic.
Well, Shaun, after our European discussion, where are you taking us for your disaster?
Not too far away. It's America, but it's also very...
Not too far away.
No. Let me fucking finish. But like
That's like trying to skim a stone and hoping it lands at New York.
Let me fucking finish. For fuck's sake. Don't just chime in halfway through my sentence.
When you say something like that, we gotta.
I'm saying most of the history comes from Germany.
Okay.
Fucking let me finish.
Are you about to talk about the current Republican Party?
I mean...
Let's get
The sad thing is Nazis pop up. A very small part though.
Fucking nerd.
Okay, so to go back even further than the 50s, it's now the 30s.
We're taking you back through time.
Yeah. We went from the 80s to the
in time.
went from the 80s to the 50s to the 30s.
Oh man, you're not helping your point.
No, Hindenburgh. I'm doing Hindenburgh.
Okay.
Fuck, how do I even start now? This is already derailed.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so between May 3rd and May 6th in 1937, we had the biggest airship disaster in human history. It's so big that it kind of killed the entire industry.
Well, yeah. Airships were kind of a dumb idea in the first place.
But the thing is, I'm going into that actually, because to give some context to this, I kind of need to go over the little bit of history. It's not too much.
It's funny because when you said the biggest one, I was like, the only one?
Well...
Like, I know there's got to have been more, but I'm also like...
I say biggest because of like the effect it had, but there were like bigger disasters that had more casualties, but like I'll go into that.
I genuinely thought Hindenburg was like the only one.
No.
They crashed and they were like, ugh.
No. As you're about to learn, the entire history of the Zeppelin is defined by failure.
Oh god.
It looks like it would be.
Oh yeah, you can tell.
Yeah.
So to go into the history a bit, the Zeppelins were designed by a guy who, I didn't make this name up, Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin. Who, by the way, I've looked at his Wikipedia page. He looks like the guy that would invent a Zeppelin. Jesus. It is that classical, very fancy mustache.
Of course.
I'm pretty sure he's got like the fucking German army helmet with the little like spike at the top and everything.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Damn, he went for it.
Like he is a German count from that era.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're getting it up right now.
I am trying to, but apparently there's a band called Lord Zeppelin as well, which feels like copyright infringement.
Are they made out of lead?
No, it's a different band. I'm trying to find Wikipedia, but there's also apparently a song, and then it just also tries to keep putting me to Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
What was his first name?
Ferdinand. Because it was that era.
Fucking course it was that. Ferdinand
It was the
von
style.
Zeppelin. There he is.
Yeah,
It was the style.
Oh, he looks
He has the
bushiest.
the Pringles mustache.
I was gonna say, it kind of looks like Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has the bushiest of mustaches.
Continue your story.
Swiftly moving on.
So, after this is a wild place to start, but after experiencing some air travel in like early sort of blimps from like observing the American Civil War, which came the fuck out of nowhere when I read his Wikipedia page.
Jesus Christ. What the fuck is happening?
Yeah, he gained like an appreciation for air travel and decided.
What?
Yeah, I know. That's how it's described.
Continue. We'll just be
I don't know if I can.
Go.
And he tried to. The idea was that he wanted to make like a wartime airship for like the German army. Like that was his plan, basically.
But during the American Civil War, and like,
it took decades to like make.
No. But like, he's saying warship, but like, there wouldn't have been a commercial ship at that point either.
No, he didn't care about the commercial side.
He's like, no.
No.
I don't get the correlation of like American Civil War, air travel. How did the two connect?
You're not looking deep.
They didn't have air travel.
The dude just rode a blimp during that time to observe like the battles and stuff, and was like, "This is neat."
Damn.
What? Okay, sure.
It was of that time.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Anyway, so after getting investors and stuff and like pitching it to the German army and stuff, he created a design called the LZ1,
Okay.
which crashed immediately. Didn't even last like 2 minutes.
Fantastic.
The investors didn't care.
I'm sorry, your money, it crashed. Oh, okay.
The world has changed.
He made the second design, which was damaged in an accident before flight.
Take it.
And then
my guy.
and then after repairs were like made, it took off and then quickly crashed again.
This guy needs to stop. He
Which
needs to
move-
He
give up.
didn't.
Yeah.
We then move on to LZ3, which successfully lasted for 2 hours.
Hey!
Did it land?
Yeah, it was the most successful one of these early ones. It landed,
Okay.
Okay.
and the German army was actually apparently so impressed that they ordered zeppelins that could fly for 24 hours at a time.
Sure.
But they'd never been tested.
At this point, it would have been the
This was like
this would have been Imperial Germany.
yeah,
right?
this was like very late 1890s to 1900s.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, they get some success after that. Still a few like crashes here or there, but like mostly okay. And then, you know, because of the situation in Europe at the time,
Yeah, yep, the powder keg.
yeah, that eventually snapped, and he finally got to test out his zeppelins in wartime. They were incompetent as shit.
Well, yeah,
Coulda
they
told you
don't
that.
move fast. They're a big fucking target.
Yeah, but they were imposing was the thing. They instruct terror.
But World War One, we are talking about World War One, right?
Yeah.
That was the the artillery was starting to become a thing at that
No
point.
one thought shoot the balloon.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, at that point, like artillery was like it wasn't used in warfare that much, so they didn't like fully grasp like the.
Okay. They could
Oh,
shoot
intent.
the big balloon.
Well, yeah, because
I mean, they probably didn't know. Can my bullet go up that far?
Do you think somebody
Yeah.
would have tried?
Yeah, but then you also gotta assume their aim's good.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
true.
thing about World War One, it was basically like modern warfare, like sort of killing off like early
Yeah,
older conventional
true.
warfare, because like the French army at the time was still like marching around in like bright colors and stuff, like very early
true.
on, and
Yeah.
they got a very heavy amount of shock
Well, yeah.
that kick-started, you know, their modern warfare stuff. Don't make the cod joke.
I've been trying not to.
Anyway, so the idea with mainly with the Zeppelin was to do bombing runs, but it was mainly through like to like inspire terror as well.
Okay.
It didn't work
slowest
though
bombing
because
run in existence.
the thing with Zeppelins is that, as you mentioned, they're a very big target.
Yeah.
So if they flew too low, they'd be easy targets. But if
Yeah.
they flew too high, the bombs were imprecise as shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say back then the bombs weren't precise enough.
No. So
They're seeing a zeppelin bomb, and then just 2-3 minutes later,
Bomb.
yeah. Most of the casualties caused by Zeppelins were the crew inside the Zeppelins.
Did they blow themselves up?
No, they got shot down
Of course.
because
yeah.
they kept dropping bombs, but the bombs didn't go off because they were in shit areas.
So what were they trying to do? Go and get the fucking bombs?
Terror. I don't think you understand how fucking stupid World War One was.
Oh, it really
So
is. I'm now just
silly.
thinking
How
that, you know,
silly.
Al Qaeda flew a plane into the World Trade Center, and the Germans were like, "Let's fly a zeppelin over the battlefield."
Yeah,
Because that'll be scary.
that was the idea.
Continue.
Yeah.
Oh, what was my point? Okay, so eventually after the war, the Zeppelin company at that point, because it was just a full-on company at like this point, decided, okay,
Led Zeppelin.
no, not yet. Basically decided, okay, so using these for war is fucking stupid.
Well, yeah.
So they decided to move more into the commercial side.
Okay. Yeah.
Occasionally they would still like give contracts for like to use Zeppelins in war, but that was mainly for transportation, I think,
Okay.
at that point.
Still seems horrifyingly inefficient, but
You
sure.
know, commercial airlines weren't a thing at this
I
point.
know, but it still would have been more efficient to just send them on the ground or on trains.
Anyway, so they decided to go into the commercial side.
Okay.
And they usually want to like market it to like, you know, very rich people.
The rich ones, yeah, yeah.
You know, so they're like to make it seem like the luxury way to like travel and stuff, because it was way faster than boat at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Hindenburg, which I'm eventually going to get to, was at the time it was made the fastest way to get to from like Europe to America, because that took like 4 days, where any conventional ship at the time took like a week.
Or if you're the Titanic, you just don't get there.
We're not at the Titanic.
Next episode.
If we do another episode of these, maybe.
This happens in that timeline, though.
I know. But anyway, so
saying
they
that
just
like we're in a different timeline from the real.
exactly. It wasn't Back to the Future. Shit. Anyway, so the Zeppelin company moved on to the more commercial side to sort of go into that front, eventually leading to the construction of the Hindenburg.
Okay.
Which the aim was very much like the Titanic, to be the biggest and most impressive Zeppelin of all.
We gotta stop doing this shit.
It's
They
the
should have
biggest.
fucking learned.
It's the biggest one. It's like
But
we don't have a good history with the
Yeah.
biggest
But-
anything.
fancy, very fancy.
So was the Titanic.
Fancy. And in air, not on water. We're okay.
Still could go horrifically wrong.
Anyway, so one of the big problems with the Zeppelin design, obviously, is that most Zeppelins, the fuel for most Zeppelins was hydrogen,
Yep.
which
very
is flammable. But the Hindenburg was originally designed to use helium,
Oh, okay.
because, that's just safer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is, it was being built by Germany, and Germany didn't have a good stockpile of helium.
Yeah, because helium is hard to
Yeah,
get.
it's a limited resource,
Yeah.
and the biggest stockpile at the time was America.
Of course it was.
And because they wanted to keep that for themselves, they actually had laws passed in like Congress that they couldn't sell it to other countries.
what?
That's so
What would
American.
they even need helium for?
We don't know, but they can have it.
yeah, it's valuable though.
Like, you can't make a helium bomb.
Yeah, but
Watch them
valuable.
try.
But valuable.
Yeah.
Money. Anyway, so they wanted to use helium even to the point where they put in a smoking room, which they kept, by the way.
Yeah, I'm
Sounds-
aware.
yeah.
But eventually, because of like the problem with America keeping it all, they were like, "Fuck, we got to use hydrogen."
Well,
Which, is just, maybe a sign that you shouldn't build this thing at
yeah.
Yeah.
all. To get to the actual event now.
We're finally here.
Yeah. 1937, the Hindenburg has made a few trips between America and Europe at this point. No
Okay.
real, problems. Everything seems to be good.
It's, the Chernobyl reactor was running for 4 years before it.
You know.
The dikes
What could
were
happen?
stopping so much water.
What could possibly
What
go
could
wrong?
possibly go wrong?
Yeah. It had I had the numbers here for the crew and the passengers. Hold on.
Oh god.
Okay, so there were 97 people on board at the time of the final
That doesn't
Journey.
seem like a lot,
No.
considering the size.
Most of it was crew as well. 61 of that was just crew members.
Jesus!
And 37 were passengers.
Wow, that's not a ratio of crew to people that
No.
you should have.
These things were a lot of fucking work, mate.
I know, but at the same time, you think when you're running that you would have more passengers than crew, just on the thing of making money back.
I know, but
Anyway,
Big balloon.
Big balloon for very fancy people who could afford it. So yeah, that was 97 people on board. They went from Germany and passed over the Netherlands. There's the mention.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
England.
Netherlands.
Yeah. England, Ireland. They went over the Atlantic and went to Greenland to sort of get an easier chance to because they were landing in New York.
Yeah,
Or was
Somewhere
New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
close enough.
Yeah, so they went over to Greenland, down to Canada, down the east coast before making their landing in New York.
Okay.
Because of weather problems, however, they had their schedule ended up being delayed by half a day by the time they entered to New York, and because of because of a storm that was coming up over New York at the time, they had to delay the landing even further.
Okay.
So they were originally landing of the morning of the 6th of May,
Right.
and they ended up landing at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Where was I going with this?
I think something happened to the
Yeah,
Hindenburg.
Yeah,
something happened to the...
Sorry, I'm getting caught up. I'm gonna be off. My anxiety is starting to like get off a
okay.
bit, so I'm just trying to. My mind's going in like circles. But they made it to New York. They were making the landing procedure like eventually after like a bunch of delays, and then during like the landing procedure that they used, which caused like the ropes to like, because they had to like get crew on like the crew on the ground at the airport to like land it on stuff. Because of like a weird like landing maneuver they had to like use to like get it to land because of the wind conditions at the time. There was my point. The idea is that something in like the sort of fuel cells that we're using in like the actual balloon itself sort of snapped it.
Okay.
Which caused the helium to leak. Which in turn, because of like what was most likely a static electric shock, caused the whole thing to ignite.
Yeah.
Which I've got like the fatalities here right now. Because it like erupted in like the air, so
everyone on board died.
No, not everyone on board died. Most people like survived. It was low enough that like most people were able to escape by jumping out the windows.
Jesus Christ.
That were looking down on like the ground. Most people actually survived is the thing.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like of the 97 people on board, there were only 35 casualties.
Okay.
13 of which were passengers.
Okay.
And 22 were crewmen.
Okay.
The interesting thing about the whole like landing thing is that like no one's completely sure what caused the ignition. Like I said, it was most likely static electricity, but there's other possible causes that go over in like a bunch of books about the topic and stuff. Like some people think it was a lightning strike or whatever that might have caused it, or you go into the more conspiracy theory heavy side and it goes into fucking sabotage.
Oh, for the love of God.
There was even a claim that like literally Hitler ordered the thing burned because the former head of the Zeppelin company had anti-Nazi views.
When did the Hindenburg disaster happen?
1937.
Okay, that...
Maybe.
The timeline does match up.
Maybe, but...
I feel like Hitler couldn't give a shit. He's like, the balloon guy doesn't like me. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do something like that.
Yeah. The reason I bring up the sabotage thing is that a sort of semi-popular book that was written by like, I think a historian maybe.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Sort of put over like a sort of more fictionalized like hypothesis that like, oh, it was this guy who had
Travel back in time.
No. It was like a guy that was like suspected to have like anti-Nazi like connections and stuff, who like wanted the Hindenburg to burn, obviously, because of, to make Nazi Germany look bad, and like it ended up getting made into a movie in like the 70s, I think.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
I'm trying to find out where it was in like the Wikipedia page, but like I've suddenly lost it. Yeah, 1962. God, that's a German name.
Let me see. What? Who destroyed? Oh, A.A. Holling?
Holling, yeah.
I think so. I don't know if you want to double check.
Where's his name? Hurling, I would say. Hurling.
So close enough to what I said.
Yeah, you're fine.
Can we call him just
Yeah, you can call him
Published the book Who Destroyed the Hindenburgh, in which he rejected all theories but sabotage and named a crew member as the suspect.
Bruh.
That's another name, sorry.
Erich Spell.
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 A figure on the Hindenburg who died of burns in the infirmaries. So, you know, unable to dispute that.
Yeah.
Was named as a potential saboteur. 10 years later, Michael McDonald Mooney's book, not you.
I was like, what? I wrote a book?
Literally, I saw that and I was like, oh shit. Wrote a book called The Hindenburg, which was heavily based on AA's sabotage hypothesis.
Okay.
And also identified Spell as a possible saboteur. I'm sorry, I'm looking at...
I read one book, and now I've been basing this entirely on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
He sounded very convinced of the book.
That book was made into the film, also called The Hindenburgh.
Okay.
A mostly fictionalized account of the final flight, of which the producers of the film were sued by
Well.
AA for plagiarism.
Well, fucking no shit.
But no, you see, the thing is, the case was dismissed because he had presented his sabotage hypothesis as historical fact, and you can't copyright that.
Ah, of course.
So that whole case was just thrown out.
Oh, poor guy. He should have said, no, I made it up. I'm sorry, I made it up.
My source, I made it the fuck up.
Yeah. Obviously, most contemporary historians throw out the sabotage hypothesis because there's no actual evidence to really go off of them.
Yeah.
And the most widely accepted idea of what caused the spark was just static electricity.
Well, yeah, that makes
More
sense.
Because
boring,
you know, it
but
just
I
makes
think
it just makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
Not
yeah.
as exciting, but you know.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it do.
It do.
Wow.
That's basically all the points I wanted to cover.
Yeah.
I honestly
I'm
did
sorry if
not
that's a very
know-
abrupt ending.
No, I did not know this much about Zeppelin.
No.
I didn't think I wanted to, but it's actually fucking funny.
Yeah, I know, it's fucking hilarious to go through. I wish I was more coherent in explaining it.
No, it adds.
Because
No, it
I didn't mean to freeze up like in
No,
multiple
or-
parts during like describing this, but like it's very funny.
It was.
I would have cracked up just reading it myself, so don't worry.
I sent like a gif to you of like me going down like the sort of mini
Yeah.
rabbit hole, and it was like that fucking Ratatouille gif of like the guy reading
The
like,
letter.
letter, and he just gets more and more shocked as it goes on.
Oh my god.
God,
Wow.
I wish I had told that story better.
No, you were fine. You were
Nah.
fine.
Yeah.
There were just some parts that like are stranger than fiction, honestly.
You know
But
the
the
big
fact
balloon. Make it drop the bomb.
The fact that like
We got big balloons filled with flammable gas. What could possibly go wrong?
the fact that Holling's book like kind of just became like the accepted canon for a bit.
Yeah, like a little bit.
Yeah, like in the public conscious at least. That's fucking wild.
Yeah. It's also funny that like I meant to go into this as well, but like there were bigger disasters mainly in like that's the sort of military style again,
Yeah.
because I mentioned that the Zeppelin company like got commissions from like even like the US Army and the British Army to like make more military Zeppelins for like transport. But those also had their own disasters. I think the US one ended up in 77 casualties.
Jesus.
But the reason those aren't as well known is because the Hindenburg had huge media coverage.
Yeah.
Like because it
can
was
imagine.
commercial and there was like a film crew.
Yeah,
like,
everyone knows
filmed
that
it.
shot.
Yeah, that like it's that one that stuck in the public conscious and basically killed the entire industry.
Well,
yeah.
yeah, because, you know, big balloons filled with hydrogen is totally not.
Yeah, because it turns out that ain't safe.
No.
Who'd have guessed?
What?
We made fucking bombs out of hydrogen, so
Yeah.
you know.
They're like, what if we just pump a whole passenger vessel full of it?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's get them high as fuck.
Yeah!
Although hydrogen's just part of oxygen, so.
yeah,
The helium.
Helium.
yeah. Yeah,
Everybody walking around with a high-pitched voice.
yeah.
Now that's a movie.
Now that's a movie right there, yeah.
What if the Hindenburg really was filled with helium? Anyway.
Alternate history, huh?
Alternate history hub. Hey Cody, I got an idea for you.
What a shout out.
Yeah.
God.
What an episode.
Yeah, I didn't expect that episode to be.
I thought your one would be longer, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I tried to be concise. Yeah, there were so many things I could have mentioned and didn't, like the fact that you know, obviously the Soviets covered up like the flaw in the reactor. I think the first instance of something like that happening was in the Mayak facility, which caused the European radiation trail, the yurt. That was like back in, I think, 53 actually. And you know, there's Sellafield in the UK that you can mention because they covered up a bunch of shit that happened there. There's also Fukushima, and, you know,
Maybe
could go into
another
loads of
time.
different stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe in a second iteration.
Yeah, there's loads of tangents you can go on with Chernobyl because, like I say,
Absolutely,
very
yeah.
complex history that led to the event, and apparently we're pretty bad in the UK for not telling people when we've been letting radiation leak everywhere.
Oopsies.
Oh, you know, it just happens.
It just happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the UK has one of the level 5 rated
Yeah, that sounds about
nuclear
right.
disasters, because there's 7 levels, 7 being the highest. Chernobyl and Fukushima are the top 2.
Shock.
I can't remember what ones are in 6, but I know some of the UK ones ended up in the 5th one. So, you know, we're not
We're not the best.
no. Why we have a nuclear power plant, I don't know. Anyway,
Free energy.
let's end this.
Yeah, let's end this
Yeah,
episode because
let's
this
end it here.
is a wild one.
Yeah, my mind's starting to turn to mush now.
Love
Thank you
that.
for listening to this episode of Napcast. I hope it's been
Something.
something.
I hope you learned something today.
Yeah.
Or tried to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or just turned your brain off
Yeah.
like us.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.